This past week's interviewee lives in Chicago's Southside Beverly neighborhood, and he took us on a little tour, talking about e-bikes, the Southside, and local officials not building bike lanes.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so we'll cross.
All right.
Welcome to Beverly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so start off, where are we and why are we here?
We are in the South Side neighborhood of Beverly. It is on the far southwest side of Chicago, if you've never seen it on a map. Right now, we're just riding down the metro tracks that pass through our neighborhood. It's a beautiful place with homes from the 1800s. It's peaceful, it's calm, and proudly still part of the city of Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a very, very scenic, very beautiful spot that we're at here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you mentioned talk a little bit about bike infrastructure in this neighborhood, because this part is calm. And so someone might think like, oh, is this a good neighborhood to bike in? But you talked a little bit about that in your main interview. It's not always that way.
No, so we're in the 19th ward, far southwest side, and it's the only ward in Chicago that doesn't have protected bike lanes. Unfortunately, our alderman in 2012 told CDOT that if there's never any bike lanes in his ward, that day would not be soon enough. And till this day, we are famously car dependent. So you have to play dodgems with cars quite often. And doing this with you today to really highlight the fact that we down here as cyclists desire to have the same level of cycle infrastructure that is being built in the rest of Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like, are there other people you know who bike? Are there other, do you know families who bike, or what does that look like? Or do you really feel like it is like, there's not a lot of people who do it because it's not safe?
No, it's exploding. So I'm starting to see a lot more people cycle. Quite often there's a little camaraderie where you give them the wave and stuff. But no, there's lots of people who are cycling now. And children as well. I want to point that out. There's lots of children who ride to and from school here, but just don't have a safe way to do so. And it's really only a matter of time until there is tragedy, really, because of the way that the streets are designed here or prioritized for cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we even on our interview, there were some kids who biked past us. They were just biking on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, I support children exercising their rights in the city of Chicago to ride on the sidewalk if they're of the age that they're allowed to do so. But I mean, they have to do it out of self-preservation. If they ride on the roads, they're gonna get clocked. I was riding on Longwood and I was doing 20 miles an hour and a car got annoyed with me for that, even though that is a designated bike lane with paint. But nonetheless, they just rode right around me and almost ran me off the road. It can be scary at times just to ride a bicycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like drivers, because I will say, from my experience on the South Side, people are generally a little nicer. I do ride mostly on weekends, and I think that makes a difference. But I feel like there's usually enough room that people will pass you. Is that your experience, or do you feel like a lot of people are very upset and very angry?
No, all right. So I personally think that car brain mentality is stuck in the 90s down here. I think, as you mentioned, the distances are longer, the streets are wider, you just have to go further. So cars travel faster, and I think that people aren't necessarily nicer down here to cyclists. I just think that they drive to their environment. So if the streets are designed wide and the streets are designed long, then they're gonna go fast. Where if we have some traffic calming in place, then maybe they'll drive more appropriately to the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I see now we're getting to the track. So where are we going here, right?
Yeah,
left?
so I'd say we're gonna have to turn right.
Okay.
Maybe.
Is this a pretty busy road? Should we?
Yeah, this is a busy road, so we're gonna have to.
We could also stop here. We could pause.
Yeah.
Whatever you're feeling. Do you want to pause and go somewhere else, or do you want to stop and call this?
Let's pause and
Okay.
connect back.
So now we're riding a different direction here.
We are heading south, back into the heart of Beverly.
There we go. Yeah, and it is a beautiful, I mean, Beverly is a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood.
It definitely doesn't get enough attention, I believe. People down here are fiercely proud of being in the city of Chicago, even though that we're really, really far out. But you got some of the original original elements of the city that just survive down here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, you mentioned a little bit that biking is starting to explode. What do you attribute that to? Is it, cultural? Is it divvy? Is it e-bikes? What do you feel like has started to change about biking in your neighborhood?
I think people are just becoming more aware of this. People are understanding that it is a viable alternative transportation mode to driving. On top of the fact that electric bikes make cycling in places like the south side more viable, because in the north side you can take a regular blue divvy and get from place to place and you'd not really be too puffed out, but on the south side you need to have that electric help.
Absolutely. And have you noticed, do a lot of people around you have e-bikes?
Yeah, so they're becoming a lot more popular and scooters as well, but I noticed that when I do see cyclists, quite often you see the electric ones, like I said, which is really important because the distances between things here on the south side can be double or triple that on the north side. So you need to, just having an electric battery unlocks what would be not a viable ride on a regular bike, but is possible on electric.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, you've got the Dan Ryan, the park, and from here, I mean, it's a 15-minute walk, but on an electric bike, you can be there in, 10 minutes, and it just unlocks a lot more destinations.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, is there anything else that you want to say? If not, I think we'll probably wrap it at that next road there, and we'll call it. Any last closing thoughts on this ride?
More protected bike lanes. We just need to be
Explain
treated.
that, actually. You know what? Let's stop for a second. Explain. If someone doesn't understand that, why do you feel like?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like? Sorry, not literally stop.
Oh, okay.
Conversationally, like why?
Yeah.
Why do you need protected bike lanes? Why is that important?
Because it unlocks it gives it the respect as a viable alternative transport to driving. Plus, when you have bike lanes, protected bike lanes, it allows children to bicycle in a safe way. And when people feel safe cycling, then they see it as a viable alternative. Until then, it's going to be hobbyists and people who are willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
It reduces the risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I'll stop at this stop sign here and put this down. And
Thank you so much.
absolutely, thank you.
Thanks for watching that interview. Subscribe to see more conversations with Chicagoans biking around their city, dropping every other week.